Hello, my friends. Today, while many Ukrainians are hopeful that the war will end with Trump's arrival, Zelensky stated that Ukraine needs to strengthen its positions before entering negotiations.
Everyone present there has the right to raise this or that issue. The most important thing is what will unite us there, how to urgently strengthen Ukraine both on the battlefield and politically, geopolitically. How can we share the same perspective on this strengthening with all the leaders, especially Europe, not only the European Union but the entire continent of Europe? It is very important for such signals to reach the United States, so that the new administration can also hear this. That we are all united not only in our aspiration for a just peace in Ukraine but also in the outcomes of these efforts, and we need those results next year. Therefore, the questions raised may not only focus on contingents. There may also be other issues that Ukraine will address. Naturally, we will discuss them in a small circle. After that, I would like all of these messages to be clearly heard during the Brussels meeting of European leaders, so everyone hears them, because they are our allies.
Meanwhile, the Russians have again stated that they will not freeze the conflict along the current front line and that they intend to achieve their objectives fully. For this reason, Poland is preparing its 46th aid package for Ukraine, which will be delivered in January. All of these indicates that the war continues, and for now the prospects of stopping it in the near future remains minimal. And Zelensky emphasized the need to unite and strive for victory over Russia.
If we are not united with Poland, if we are not united across Europe, then Russia will win this war. If Russia wins this war, there will be no one left to debate the past and the future. So let's achieve victory together, and then we can reflect on other undoubtedly important issues. But first, let's clarify for ourselves what the priority truly is.
Overall, friends, share your thoughts on this in the comments. Meanwhile, international publications are confident that the final stage of the war is near. Reports suggest that there could be four scenarios for how events may unfold. The final phase of the war in Ukraine is approaching, according to the New York Times, which outlined four possible scenarios for our country. NATO membership. The membership Ukraine and Zelensky have so strongly pursued will not be granted. At least seven NATO countries oppose Ukraine's accession or want to postpone it indefinitely. Defense by a coalition of willing states. A group of willing nations would assume security commitments to protect Ukraine. Foreign troops in Ukraine. Foreign military forces would be deployed in Ukraine not only to secure Ukraine, but also to ensure the safety of Europeans themselves. And the last one is armored neutrality. This is the least acceptable scenario for Ukraine. It would require Ukraine to abandon NATO membership and the stationing of foreign troops and weaponry on its territory, while Russia would commit not to attack Ukraine. In general, it's the same as always. Nothing new or groundbreaking has been proposed yet. However, Zelensky announced that today, Wednesday, in Brussels, the issue of deploying foreign troops in Ukraine may be discussed. He also stated that after Trump's inauguration, there will be pressure to stop the war. But Ukraine needs more than just stopping the war, it needs to strengthen itself.
After the inauguration of President Trump, there will obviously be intensified efforts to stop the war. And all of us in Europe need more than just a pause. Not just a pause in combat, not just something temporary or uncertain. We need a strong, unified position from all partners, and we need a real peace. The most important thing is that such peace, a peace achieved through strength, can indeed be ensured.
Meanwhile, the war continues, and Russian forces are advancing, occupying more Ukrainian territory. Let's start with the Pokrovsk direction, where Russian troops have managed to advance another 1 kilometer and 700 meters closer to the village of Novovasylivka. By last evening, the Ukrainian forces had already reported that Russian forces had entered the village. The Russians are building up its forces to break through our defenses in the Solone, Novovasylivka, Pishchane, Zvirove direction. All the roads leading to Pokrovsk from the south are being targeted for direct Russian control. The Russians have already entered Novovasylivka and are advancing in a wide front toward Pishchane. They are preparing to storm this village. We are holding firm in the areas of Lysivka and Dachinsky. Here, the Russians haven't yet managed to break through our defenses. It's extremely difficult to hold back the pigs. I believe in my comrades, and we will succeed. As we can see, the Ukrainian forces continue to hold the line as much as possible. Counterattacks have ceased, and the Ukrainian forces now maintain a defensive stance. In the Kurakhove direction, the Russians haven't captured two more villages, advanced by 5 kilometers and 600 meters, and now battles are raging for Uspenivka. They are breaking through from the village of Dalny across the fields. Assaults on the villages of Sukhi Yali, Konstantinopolske, Stary Terny, and Sontsivka also continue. In Kurakhove itself, fighting persists, but so far the Russians haven't managed to fully capture the city. In the Velyka Novosilka direction, the Russians advanced in the area of the village of Novyi Komar and took control of its outskirts. They also continue the attacks near Rozdolne, storming Neskuchne and breaking through from Blahodatne, Makariivka, and Novoandriivka. Shelling remains constant, and it's evident that the Russians are gradually making progress here. Reports indicate a growing threat of encirclement of Ukrainian forces. There is a risk of encirclement for the Ukrainian forces on the Vremivsky direction. The most challenging situation is currently near Velyka Novosilka, specifically along the Makariivka, Blahodatne, Storozhove line. After capturing Blahodatne, the Russians are constantly bringing infantry into the village in small groups, while continuing assaults between Storozhove and Makariivka to cut off the latter, which has been holding out so far. There are also attempts to infiltrate Storozhove itself to occupy and fortify positions there, reports the department. The Ukrainian forces on the ground are emphasizing the rapid pace of these developments. Wow, things are moving very quickly around Velyka Novosilka. Not that this one as unexpected, but the Russians are breaking through key positions on the flanks at an alarming pace. The shortage of manpower, shells, and drones is becoming painfully apparent, unfortunately. Furthermore, reports are emerging that the Russians may be planning to advance toward the Dnipropetrovsk region as they have approached it closer than ever today. In the Zaporizhzhia direction, the Russians are assaulting Novoandriivka and conducting heavy shelling, but so far they have made no new advances. In the Kherson direction, the Russians continue their active assaults on the islands near Hola Prystan. They are attempting breakthroughs near the villages of Poyma and Kozachi Laheri. However, they haven't achieved any success as the Ukrainian forces continue to repel all their attacks effectively. Now moving to the Toretsk direction, here the Russians continue the attacks on Shcherbinivka and are attempting to advance toward Toretsk. However, they haven't had no new successes, and the situation here has remained unchanged over the past day. In the Chasiv Yar direction, the Russians are trying to break through toward Orikhovo-Vasylivka. They are also storming Chasiv Yar and Stupochki. However, here as well, they have achieved no new successes as the Ukrainian forces continue to repel all attacks effectively. In the Siversk direction, the Russians continue the assaults on Bilohorivka and Grigorivka, attempting to advance towards Siversk. Battles are also ongoing near Verkhnyo-Kamensk, Spirne, and Ivanodarivka. However, no changes have been recorded over the past day. In the Lyman direction, the Russians are storming Terny and trying to break through in the Serebryanka forest. Yet, as before, they have had no success and the front line remains unchanged. In the Borova direction, the Russians are storming Zagryzhove, Lozova, Vishneve, and Kopanke. Further south, they are attempting to advance toward Novoandriivka, attacking Chernyshina, and trying to move across the fields from the village of Makiyivka. However, no changes have been recorded over the past day. In the Kupiansk direction, the Russians continue the attacks on Kucherivka and Petropavlivka. They haven't achieved any success, and their situation remains unchanged. In the Kharkiv direction, the Russians are once again attempting to create a buffer zone along the border and are storming the village of Kozachi Laheri. Attacks on the village of Gliboka have also been recorded, but so far Russia has had no successes over the past day and the front line remains unchanged. In the Vovchansk area, there is currently a lull with no new attacks reported. In the Kursk direction, activity remains extremely high, even surpassing that of the Pokrovsk direction. This indicates that the Russians are in a hurry. However, no new successes have been achieved over the past day, and the front line remains unchanged. And that's all from me. So please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on all the latest news. Thank you for watching and see you next time. Bye bye.